For Too Much, Thomas and I had a huge blast. We really we kind of maximized our collaboration effort, and we tackled this whole song in about 3 sessions. From the very beginning, we get like the little dun 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 with some of a chorus guitar to accompany it. So here's like the distorted. So without the chorus, with it. Otherwise it would be like a little bit too dry. And so since there's no like reverb or decay on the distorted guitar, the chorus is what really kind of brings out the character of it. So then once we kind of add the drums, that's when we get into like the real momentum of it, which is fun because the hi-hats of the drum kit really play with like the percussiveness of the dun 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 dun. So you kind of gives like this little hoppy kind of feel to it. And then of course we kind of add in the more of the eighth notes in order to kind of hop it up even more. It just kind of lifts it up before we go into like the little like bridgey kind of section. Which, speaking of, there's a little fun thing that I got from UVI, which is my favorite like sound library that I use for all of my demos, and usually ends up surviving into the finished product. And so there's a little sample that it came pre-sampled. It's like a police scanner kind of a thing. And then I basically like assign the notes to the keyboard so that way I can like create my own rhythm to it. And so here's what the rhythm ended up being. So it does have a rhythm. It's not like a straightforward 1, 2, 3, 4, but it has like a rhythm that you can kind of hear. But when you hear it with like the rest of the sounds, it's really hard to kind of distinct that synchronize, like where the 1 is in the rhythm. Let's see. But now that you know it, it's easier to point it out now. And then the sweeps, which is funny because those are sweeps that Thomas was able to kind of put some effects on them, but not a whole lot. And what they really are is, in the microphone, I just went psh, and then I reversed it. So let me solo those for you. And then I just panned them hard left and hard right so that way it fills up a little bit. See, so it's really just when it's backwards, which is funny. So then let's get to the choruses. So in both of the choruses, I have the distorted guitars playing separate leads for each one. And so for the first one, it's a bit more straightforward, whereas the second one, since you kind of want to end with like a bang, it's definitely a lot more, like, it's just a lot more intense. So this first one's pretty simple. Little bluesy. And then there's a fun little thing for this. I wanted to play the lowest note that I could, start from there, then sweep up until the dun 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 dun. But what the problem was is that lowest note was a little too high and it wasn't in the key. And so the second, or at least the closest note that I could find, at least the lowest note that I can find that was in the key, was still a little bit too high. The frequency was just a little too high, and we couldn't get it to sound right. Basically, I used standard tuning, but then I just tuned down that lower E string, I think in just a half step, in order so I can play that super low note, the doom, go right into that melody. And then we get into the main second chorus, which is just like the banger kind of a chorus. This is where I have the sweep snare, which I love. Let me mute some of these. Just this big ol', which comes in on the 4 of the 1, at least the 4 before the 1, and the 1 being the downbeat of the main chorus. So let me just play the whole thing for you real quick. It's such a powerful like banger when you don't have the vocals for it. So not only does the sweep really just like hype you up and kind of freezes time for that second, preparing you for that big 1. But so let me start off showing you the night game. Again, I use some of a handful of their samples in here. And so this was going to be the main like piece of DNA for that downbeat, which is this. Just this super glassy, it's like a very police kind of glassy kind of chord that the police likes to use. So basically that was going to be the forefront, but obviously I couldn't sleep at night knowing that the forefront of this huge moment was going to be a sample. So basically I ended up using different instruments to try and recreate that sound. And so one of those pieces were this guitar, which is a lot more delicate, but there is a lot of reverb and decay and stuff in order for it to kind of really lengthen. And then I have the main lead for this one. So this is like the more intense one, the more it's a lot faster. So the idea was that since vocally I'm only saying the words too much and then there's a big gap between each time I say it, I needed the guitar to basically be the voice and kind of carry on whatever the message was. And so Thomas brought that up, which is really cool. Obviously the message, which I mentioned into the meaning of video for this song, is that, you know, basically you're talking too less, therefore do more. And so in this instance, I'm saying the words too much, right? And then you can try to get onto the inception of the message, but I'm talking too much and I'm saying the words too much. And so therefore I have this gap between each time I say it. And so in those gaps, I fill it with actually doing it, which is me playing the guitar. So that was kind of how it kind of comes full circle and stuff like that. So here's the guitar part for it. So another thing that really kind of added to that layer is this thing that Thomas created, which is like this alien-like kind of keyboard kind of a thing, which is this bad boy. Which again goes on and on. And so I wanted the attack not to be so in your face, and so that's why it's more like a pad, but it's a pretty strong pad. So when you pair it with the other things, let me do that, including the sample, you really get this layer of just frequency. And then when you add all the instruments to it, it's so nice. One of the cool things is that when you solo certain aspects of it, especially when you kind of play it through with just like the pads or just like some backup guitars, you really kind of, it's really very pretty. The backup guitars are usually just very pretty and they usually play very well with each other. So watch here in the bridge, you really kind of get a feel for like the instrumentation of it's pretty nice. It's pretty cool. So hopefully you guys were able to hear some of the things that you guys may not have been able to notice and kind of see what kind of creates these big kind of sounds and stuff like that. So this is really fun for me to do. I think it's really cool to be able to analyze your own work so you can see your own instrumentation, especially after, you know, a few weeks have passed since you've worked through the production itself. You can actually like learn things from your own production, which is really cool. So now on to song 2.